Hi, this is Doug from unSkript, and really excited to have you joining our live stream this week. And this week we are going to walk through using ChatGPT to generate actions. Now, if you've ever built a runbook if you've ever built a runbook in unSkript, you'll know that they are built on actions. And so each action completes a step in the runbook, right? You complete one, the output from that goes to the second action or to the third action. And as those steps complete, you can complete all of the steps of a runbook. And we have hundreds of actions already built in, right? So if you want to list IAM users for AWS, we have an action that will do that for you. List all IAM users. And if you set up your configuration, you add your credentials, there are no inputs for this one, and you run it, it'll give you a list of all the IAM users. Right, we have hundreds of these. We can look at Kubernetes. You can look at Google Cloud, right? We have, for all of these different services, we've built actions that complete common steps that need to be done when you're using those cloud providers. Now, we can generate hundreds and hundreds of these, and there's no possible way that we could hit every single use case for every single one of our customers. Like, it's just, it's too diverse a surface area that we could possibly hit them all. And so we've had customers who have relied on creating their own actions. And it's all Python. It's all, if you've built Jupyter notebooks, it's all fairly straightforward, and you can code them fairly quickly and write them. But it's always been a bit of a stumbling block, right? I need to do this, but now I have to write some code, and it's going to take some time. So what we're really excited about is this new added generated AI action. And what this is going to do is we're going to work with ChatGPT to write our actions. So let's just kick it off. Let's just go for it. Let's build an AWS action. And in this case, what if instead of listing all the IAM users, what if you just wanted the IAM users with the name Doug, right, in the name? And then, in addition to that, let's go a little bit more. Let's get all of the access keys. So let's get all of their access keys, and then tell me also when those access keys were last used. Now, I've done this query before. I know it's going to work. And you can see that I've written a few things here to get the name of all of their access keys. And so you have to be careful about how you write this. The first time I did this query, it created a dictionary. It was based on the username, so it was only outputting one access key per username. And if you use AWS, you do know, stop for a second, this is a common ChatGPT error. It's going to go away by the time this comes live to you guys. But if you, going back, the response from ChatGPT was only giving me one access key per user. And if each IAM user can have 2 access keys. So this is written in such a way I would like for each users to get all access keys. And by being that specific, I know I'm going to get, if there are 2 access keys, I'm going to get them both from the output. Each one of these queries takes about a minute. And so, with one query, you can get an action in just, in a minute or 2, just depending how quickly you type. If you have to iterate a little bit, you might be talking 4 or 5 minutes and you've created an action. And there's no way we could do that ourselves by typing. All right, so it says it has completed. Let's look at the configuration here. I'm going to need to add my credentials. So it's just looking up all the credentials for AWS. We'll use those credentials. And now we can run this runbook. There was a little bit of a hallucination in this last use date was added there. So I compared that to the one that I had running before. And when I deleted that, I get this really actually very nice looking output here, showing that each of the things, like this one hasn't been used recently. This one was last used in April. This one was last used 20 minutes ago, right? And so you can see all of those. Now, this looks great. But what if we wanted to generalize this a little bit more? And rather than just ones that said Doug, we could change it to search for any keyword in the username. I'm also going to complement it because I really like this output format. And I see this one sometimes. And so I want to make sure that I am giving that positive reinforcement that this output format looks good. And then can we make the username filter a required input? Call it username filter and have the default value be Doug. So now when this runs, we can put Doug in there, or we could put in Yuri, or we could put Shloka or somebody else. Okay, so now it has a filter, right? So now we can come over here to the configurations and we could put in Doug, but we could also put in test. And I know that there are users called tests. So let's see what this does. And so what we can see here is that we have now found these two test access keys. So what's great about this is, there are times where that chat doesn't, the ChatGPT doesn't give you exactly what you want, and you can continue the chat to refine. And that's something that also exists here. So just in a couple of minutes, we've built this, this action that allows us to do a lot of really interesting things here. And of course, we can come back over here. We can change this to Doug. I'm just going to change this to Doug so that I can do my next one. So imagine we wanted to see what this person has actually been doing inside AWS, right? This key has been used in the last 24 hours. And like, what if we wanted to find out exactly what was being done in the last 24 hours? And so we can actually generate an action that does that. We're going to call it an AWS action. And so what I'm going to do is I'd like to create a list of every action created by a specific access key ID for the last 24 hours. Access key ID will be a required input. And so now what we could do is we could take one of these access key IDs right here, plug it in, and see what's been done. Okay, so that says it's completed. We can come over here. We can see that I need to add my credentials, and we can add an access key ID. So what we're going to do is we actually look up over here. We know this one has work that's been done in the last 24 hours. We can come down to this one, configuration. Set the credentials, and we'll hit go. And so this should list out all of the actions that this access key ID has done for the last 24 hours. And you can see it's doing this, the start time was 24 hours ago. Okay, so we got a failure here, and this is ChatGPT being a little, I believe. So what we're having here is we've got a quote here, and then we've got a quote here. And so that's screwing up the F statement, I believe. So if we take this out, I have seen this in the past where ChatGPT is making a mistake in when it does an F statement. Oh, but there's a further error because ChatGPT, another thing that ChatGPT does when you're building AWS actions is it forgets to add a region. So what I am going to do is I'm going to just do this right here. It is, let's say, we're going to add an input string called region. And then we'll add an input here. Make it required. And we can see we're getting a list of events that have occurred in the last 24 hours in US West 2. So 2 errors that happened in generating this code from ChatGPT. It was a little ambitious in creating an F statement. So just knowing a little bit of Python, you can look at that error and work backwards. And then the other issue is that ChatGPT often forgets the region name. And so in this case, I manually went in and added the region name. You could say, hey, ChatGPT, you forgot the region name, and I'd like that to be a required parameter with default inputs of region. In this case, I know I could actually do that in less than a minute, But if you're not comfortable or haven't done enough with Modo 3 and AWS, you can just ask ChatGPT and it will do it for you. Right, the last one I'm going to do here for our live stream today is I've done a bunch of ChatGPT, or they're all in ChatGPT. I've done a couple of AWS. Let's just do one that's MongoDB, just to show that it works for other cloud tools. And so in this case, we're going to do Mongo. So it's not showing up here, and I could search, but I'm just going to type in MO and I get MongoDB. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to ask for it to create a dictionary of all of the indices for all of my databases and collections in my MongoDB cluster. So for each database and collection, create a list of all the indices, return it as a dictionary. Okay, so, again, less than a minute, and we've generated this giant bit of code right here. And that's awesome. So let's set up the configuration. Again, all we're going to need to do is add our MongoDB credentials and go. And this is going to throw an error. I know it's going to throw an error, so we'll walk through them. Okay, so it threw an error because I don't actually have, my user doesn't have permission to access the indices of one of the databases. And so, oh man, this isn't going to work because I don't have permission. So what I'm actually going to say is, and again, I'm just going to copy and paste this because watching me type isn't that exciting. But I'm going to say handle the errors from the index collection so that the list can be generated, right? So what this is going to do is going to put a try except. So try it, and if it works, great. Otherwise, if it doesn't, return permissions error for any collection that fails due to permissions. So again, all is not lost with that first failure right here. The problem is I didn't have permission for one of my collections here. So let's work around that. Let's build in some error checking, and then the action will be able to run. Okay, so it has completed doing that. So let's see how ChatGPT did. It is, so now you can see that the action has completed. And, this is a very basic Atlas account with Mongo. It's got all of the sample collections in there. So I have the database sample Airbnb, the collection listing and reviews, and there are 4 indices: ID, address, location, property type, something, something, and name, right? So this actually worked. It's now listing all of the indices for all of the collections inside a database. So to me, that's super exciting, right? So here's the sample movie flicks. We've got the collection of theaters. We've got the collection of comments with just ID, right? And it worked. And I was watching my clock. I think I did this in under 5 minutes. And there's no way it's humanly possible that we could have coded this with the error handling and connecting to MongoDB in under 5 minutes. But by working with ChatGPT, I was able to do this. Now, of course, this is a demo. I spent probably 15 minutes getting this running, but still super incredibly powerful tool. If you're trying to build a RunBook to manage and work with your cloud ops infrastructure, there are 500 existing unSkript actions. If it's there, drag it in and use it. But if the action isn't there yet, and I've got to code it. Now we have this awesome feature, this Gen AI action. So if you have a ChatGPT API key, you can pair program with ChatGPT just by talking with it. And in a matter of a few minutes, maybe 15 at the longest, maybe 20 to handle your error handling, you can generate a fully fledged action that does exactly what you need to do. And to me, that is incredibly powerful, that we can leverage this coding power to build and help us automate our different cloud ops using runbooks. So thanks for watching this. If you have any suggestions or if you want to give it a try, it will be on our free trial later this week, and you can give it a go. We'd love to hear what you guys are building And we're going to make it really easy for, once you've generated these, if you wanted to submit them back into our open source, we're going to simplify that process so that the work that you've done, if you want to contribute it back so that other people can benefit by the actions you've built, you can send it back into our open source. But for right now, this is just a great tool. So when you're building your actions, you can harness a lot of the power of ChatGPT to build your actions for you. And once you save this action, it is in your unSkript tenancy. So any of your other colleagues can use that same action in their runbooks as well. So by building your actions with a pair programming with an AI, it's just unleashing a huge amount of power into how quickly you can generate actions. And then as a corollary, because you're generating actions, how quickly you can generate your runbooks for your cloud ops optimization. So thanks for watching. We'll be here again next Wednesday with another installment of the unSkript live stream.